fell on the floor. Okay, we're starting a new unit today on patterns and sequences. If you want to print this page out, you can find the packet to print in our new modules, Module 4. And this is page 3 in the packet. The first couple of pages just have some blank lines for you to write whatever on, notes or show your work or scratch paper or whatever. So let's go ahead and fill in these blanks. A pattern, that's our first blank here. I know our last unit I actually gave it to you already filled in. So nice. A pattern is a set of objects arranged following a set of rules. A sequence is a set of numbers arranged in a specific order. Okay, so patterns and sequences, very similar things. A pattern is following a special arrangement with a set of rules to explain how they're arranged. A sequence is a set of numbers arranged in a specific order that also can have a rule that helps us understand how that pattern is created. Okay, so what we're going to do is continue each pattern or sequence below, and then we're going to explain each one and what's happening in our sequence. Okay, so there actually might be more than one way to complete these, which is partially why I'm struggling with creating your Canvas quizzes to go with your assignments. Because what if you see the sequence a different way than I do? So then the answers would be different. But I can still go in and grade them manually and watch for that kind of thing. As long as you explain yourself properly, then I would be likely to give you the credit for it, even if it wasn't the way that I thought it should be. So let's see, we have a capital A, a lowercase a. Capital A, lowercase a, lowercase a. Any ideas what might come next? All right, so my class here, they decided that the pattern might be that we have one A and then one A, and then we have two A's, two capitals, two lowercase. So they were thinking maybe 3 capitals. I'm not going to go with the spacing that's here. I'm just going to fill it in so I have more space. And then maybe 3 lowercase, which means then we would go up to 4 uppercase, 4 lowercase, right, if we're following this pattern. So to explain it, I don't know if we have enough room here, but we can start trying. Explain it. So we have one capital number. Here, I'm actually going to switch to my text so I can type it in instead. Red is fine. Okay, so explain it. So I'm just going to put explanation. You don't have to write that part. I'm just making it very clear for people watching my video. So our explanation is that we would have a capital A, lowercase a, then the number of letters increases, there might be a better way to say this, by 1 more letter as the pattern continues. That's a lot of stuff to write, so you might have a better way of explaining it. But like I said, if you were to do this a different way, your explanation would matter for me to give you credit on it. Either on a written worksheet or even on if I create a Canvas assignment for this. So that's just one possible way. Did anyone see any other ways we could do this? there's actually no reason why our pattern can't be created by repeating itself. So just another idea that I had pop in my head was, even though we seem to have this pattern that's increasing by 1 each time. So we started out with 1 of each and then 2 of each, and so that made us want to go to 3 of each. What if we just went back to 1 of each? Or what if we, and then just continued and went to 2 of each? I guess I should have their commas. And then go to 1 of each again. Would that be a valid way to do this pattern? Just to repeat that over and over like that? So that would just be a big old or. Another way to do that, and that would just require a different explanation, right? Pattern repeats. So just keep in mind that if I do end up creating Canvas quizzes for these, and I have specific answers in there that it wants, and so then you get them wrong. If I go in and look at them manually and see that you did it a different way with an explanation that makes sense, then I can go ahead and give you the points for that. Okay, look at our next problem. 1, 3, 5, 7. Now, any of these patterns, we could go with the blue option here, and we could just take the entire pattern and repeat it again, right? Or we could take this pattern and we could go backwards. Like we could go up to 7 and then start going back down to 5, 3, 1, then back up to 3, 5, 7, back down to 5, 3, 1. There's all sorts of ways to do patterns. So I don't know how to say that just kind of go with the most obvious pattern. But like I said, I will consider any patterns you come up with. But what came in your head first for this one? Any thoughts? What kind of numbers are these? These are odd numbers, aren't they? So to start with an odd number and get to all the other odd numbers, it's kind of like we're adding 2 each time, right? That's a little explanation right there. Just by writing those plus 2s, I'm explaining it. So my explanation could be, I could write it out, add 2 each time. Or another way of explaining it would be to say it's the odd numbers. So if that's my explanation, what would the next 4 numbers be? 7 plus 2 would be 9, right? 9 plus 2 would be 11. 11 plus 2, 13. And 13 plus 2, 15. All right, let's look at our next pattern. We've got 1/2, then 1/3, then 1/4, then 1/5. It looks like these numbers are just increasing. If we follow that pattern, then it would be what? What would be next? Just going to increase that bottom number, right? So my explanation could be denominator or bottom number, whichever way you want to say it, increases by 1. I didn't give myself a lot of space between those letters, so it's hard to read. Okay, so 1/6, which means 1/7, 1/8, 1/9. Okay, let's look at this visual pattern here. We've got 1 square, and then we've got 3 squares. So we've added 2 extras here, made this L shape. Then we have added 3 more squares. So it's kind of an extension of this little L shape thing, but more like steps now, right? I feel like these are, now that I go to the 3rd iteration, I can see that it's looking a lot like steps. So yes, go ahead and draw your 4th iteration. I'm going to cheat a little bit and use my drawing tools to do that. So I'm going to make myself a square about the same size as the other squares. And this iteration has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this one had 1, and we added 2, and then we added 3. So this one has 6, and we're going to add 4 more to it, right? So 6 plus 4 would be 10. So I'm going to take my square and make 4 copies of it. Not 4, 10 copies. Can't see my copies because they're just going on top of each other. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to do another column with 3 in it. 2, 3, and then another one with 2. And the last one with 1 so that I have my steps. Yours does not, your pictures do not have to be perfect. I am being really perfectionistic about this, which is not needed. It's just kind of in my nature. Woo! And grab the last one. It's not letting me. I'm trying to hurry too fast. Oh, I made one more than I needed. So I'll delete that last one. Okay, perfect. There's my next iteration. So how do we explain this pattern? Maybe we explain it that we get a stairs shape, right? It's like stairs. And we're going to add squares each time. But the number of squares increases by 1, right? I'm not sure the best way to say that. Increasing by 1 square each. I don't know if I want to say each time again. Increasing by 1 square. I don't know. I'll just say it. Each time. Okay, so stairs, add squares each time, increasing by 1 square each time. So here we had 1 square, and we added 2, so then we have 3. See how we can kind of show the results with actual numbers? And then we added 3 more, so we had 6. And then we added 4 more, so we ended up with 10. So how many would be in the next step? I'm not going to draw it, but how many squares would be in our next set of steps? 15, right? Does that make sense? And then 21, and it just keeps increasing each time. Okay, we are on to our last pattern here. I don't know if you recognize what's happening with these numbers. I'm going to let you look at them for a minute before I... Hopefully you paused your video and took a minute to think about this next problem. Here in class, we thought of 2 different ways to do this. So because our last problem, we noticed that we could add 2 squares to get the next one, and then add 3 to get the next one, etc. We kind of looked at that pattern here as well. So to get from 1 to 4, we can add 3. And then to go from 4 to 9, we can add 5. And from 9 to 16, we can add 7. So our next number would come from adding 9, 11, 13, 15, correct? So we're just adding incremental odd numbers. So that would give us 16 plus 9 is 25. 25 plus 11 is 36. 36 plus 13 is 49. And 49 plus 15 is 64. Another thing I noticed about this is if you take numbers that you count with and you just square them, you also get these numbers. So if I take just counting numbers, so 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, that means 3 times 3, right? 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36, 7 squared is 49, 8 squared is 64. We call these numbers perfect squares. Or you could explain it by saying to square the counting numbers.